It was at my most recent reenactment down at Fort Lawrence in Bolivar, Ohio, that I was given my first opportunity to actually command a small body of men. And when I say small, I mean very small. It's a very tiny event in, northern Ohio, and so we had, what was it, I think 6 or 7, something like that, Crown forces, but we were out drilling on Saturday morning, and we gave the opportunity to various individuals, and some of us who had never done so before, to try our hand at commanding the group, marching back and forth. Sort of, we were practicing, catching up with each other, making sure we all vaguely knew what was going to be going on for the battle, things like that. And so, eventually, the buck passed to me, and I was able to act as the officer of this little body. And while it was great fun, being an officer for the first time, getting to shout out the words of command and people doing whatever you say, things like that, while it was great fun, I made a great deal of rather significant mistakes throughout the entire affair. And while there wasn't any battle going on, while there was no one shooting at us, while I didn't have to worry about putting on a good show for spectators, or I didn't have to worry about maintaining proper distances, or getting good casualty ratios, I didn't have to worry about anything like that, and yet even still, trying to not only act in a proper fashion myself, but also be constantly thinking about, okay, what am I going to have them do next, and where am I going to go from there? It actually, it's a lot more stressful, it's a lot more going on in the mind of the average officer than I actually really thought of, taking place at a mere reenactment. I found myself making little mistakes that when I'm in the ranks myself, when I'm marching along myself, thinking, oh, he did that wrong, oh, he did that wrong, oh my god, did this guy think it all up? I found myself making the same exact mistakes that I'd oftentimes judge other people for making, so perhaps I should be a little bit less extreme and petty. But I'm certainly not above mocking my own performances here on the channel, and so I figured I would show the footage, and just as you watch through it the first time unedited, it's not all that long, see how many mistakes you can point at, you can pick up that I've made. And then after that, we'll go through the footage together, and I'll point out every single little thing that I've done wrong, at least that I can find. If you find something that I haven't, then please do point it out, and for the next time, I'll be sure to make the show a little bit better. Alright then. My goodness me. All the command groups are on the left foot. Step, right turn. Right turn. Right about. Alright. And right about me. Ah, cool. Well, we'll give it a shot. What am I addressing you as? Regular? Detail. Guys.
Why did you show that?
You lost. The right about. Wait. Oh, yeah, look at that. Why you're in charge nowadays. Just automatic. Company. Show them. Up. Company. To the right out. Hey. Company. To the front. Up. Alright, now this time let's add a bit of commentary and pick out all the little problems with at least my show during the whole affair. Right about. Oh, yeah, look at that. And we can pause it just there, because I've already made my first mistake, and I think this one is fairly obvious based on how it was shown to me by my good sergeant and by how we corrected it. Right now the men are at the order, which means I can't really, according to the proper drill manual, I cannot have them turn or do much of any motion when they're in this sort of position. The order is a fixed position. Usually it's ordered, you go to the order right before you go to the rest. So in order to have them move around, I would either have to have them them go to the trail, to the shoulder, or as opposed to the advance, although that's not as common to go to the advance arms, or the advance your firelocks from the order. So we rapidly fix that problem.
Well, you're in charge, Jose. Company, shoulder, up.
And we've already made another mistake. Now, you may have heard that the command that I ordered, that I shouted there, was company, shoulder your arms. Now, it would be correct if they had the bayonets fixed to their pieces, but because the bayonets are unfixed, you would not refer to the musket as an arm, you would refer to it as the firelock. So the proper command would be shoulder your firelocks. Again, when the bayonet is fixed, it becomes arms. When not fixed, it is firelocks. I'm not entirely sure why that distinction exists, or exactly how long it's stuck around. You know, it's a bit, it seems like one of those silly things that they'd get rid of relatively early on. I don't know if that continued through to the Napoleonic Wars or not. Now, this is actually quite a common error among reenactors, both, you know, officers enlisted, but basically everyone. All the time I hear people shout arms or firelock sort of interchangeably as if it doesn't actually matter, but it does, as we've said, rely rather specifically on whether or not you have a pointy thing on the end. I suppose, as one fellow once put it, they don't consider it a weapon until there's something pointy at the end. Before that, it's just a firelock. So, moving on.
Company, to the right out. Hey. Company, to the front. Up.
At this point, I was just trying to figure out, okay, what can I have them do? What should I do? It was rather put on the spot, you know. Now that was good, but now look at my feet, because I'm about to fall out of step. There we go, and I had to correct it, so we'll pause just there, just so I can talk about that a little bit. I found very difficult, because I was focusing so much on what the body of men was doing, you know, where am I going to have them turn, how am I going to get them to wherever they need to go. I've said that numerous times in the video already, but I was so focused on all that I found myself unable to focus on my own positioning within that very group, and my own, you know, actually keeping pace with the step, you know, with the drum. So I was sort of dancing around the outside of the formation if I was doing it properly, especially if I was doing it in the field. I should probably have a fixed spot, you know, with this group, because as it is, me just sort of like dancing around along, you know, the right side of the formation there, I mean, in the event of a battle, if I was doing something like that, just sort of wandering around wherever I felt like it was necessary, it could be rather dangerous, because, of course, if someone needs to find me, of course, if I was actually a commander, I would have a much different style of uniform than the enlisted men, but it would be a lot more difficult to find me if I wasn't constantly in my usual position, so to say, without anything to actually designate where I am. Me just sort of dancing around the edges as I am here, it's not the worst offense, but it's certainly not something that should be sought after when you're in the field. As well, like I said, my step was, I was out of place with that because I was so focused on what the men were doing. You may notice there as well that my glance was rather obviously directed not towards the men themselves and to the field around me, you know, to my surroundings, the way that a commander probably should be. Rather, I was staring at the feet of the man immediately to my left. I wanted to see, okay, what is his pacing here, you know, how, like, what is the step looking like? I don't know why I wasn't just paying attention to my own step, because I wasn't step at that point, but I wanted to make sure that I gave the command on the right foot for the entire column to turn into line, because that was sort of the maneuver that we were practicing that day. Again, just a little thing about a lack of awareness overall as to what is fully going on around me, because I was so focused on getting the small things, the minutiae, correct. Moving on. Now, this was less of a historical problem and more of a reenactor problem. You know, as a reenacting commander, this wasn't a very good thing for me to do. Now, you see, I gave the command, prepare to charge, at which point, as you see, you know, the end state looks more or less proper. Some of the men's hands positions could be, I think, a bit better, but we hadn't really rehearsed this maneuver all that much. We just sort of like very basically covered it. What happens when you issue the command prepare to charge is that the men raise their arms up to this, or to say firelocks, up to this position, and it becomes sort of the new basis of all movement of the soldier. You see, normally, whenever you issue, whenever you're issuing commands to men in the field, their base position, or the thing that they always end up back to, so to say, is the shoulder, the position of a soldier under arms. So if the so say you issue the command prime and load, you know, they prime and load. When the musket is loaded in the field, they would go to the shoulder because that's sort of the base position. No matter what you do, if you're going, say, are turning about, marching, you're always at the shoulder. Everything is operating, you know, it comes from or it's based around that basic position. When you issue the command prepare to charge, this becomes the new basic position of the soldier. So after they are loaded, they will go up to that spot. After, whenever they're turning around or moving in the field, they're always at that position. It's sort of like a battle ready, it's a battle carry of some sort for the 18th century. So there's nothing really wrong there. What I did as a reenactor incorrectly was I threw this to the men completely out of the blue, you know, it just sort of popped in my mind and I thought it would look kind of neat here for the camera. And I didn't issue a preparatory, not command, but, you know, I didn't prepare the men for this thing at all. What I did was, again, out of the blue, I said, company, prepare to charge. So the men were more or less all a little bit off with their timing, and this isn't their fault, this is my fault. It's my responsibility to make sure that they can actually carry this order out according to proper time. You see, normally, whenever a command is issued, the drum beats and you immediately after, you know, one count after the drum beats, that is when you carry out the order. Or if you're on the march like this, I would issue the command on the left foot, and on the next left foot is when it would actually be carried out. So that way everything is at the same time, it's very sharp, it's very martial, and it's all in proper order. Because I threw it out of the blue, some men knew immediately, oh, okay, he's having us do that, and they went to that position. Some men were a bit late on the draw. It was all over the place, and it didn't look very good. If this was in an actual event, the crowd would, you know, they wouldn't be very impressed with this sort of thing. So as reenactors, what we normally do to make sure that this sort of embarrassment, I suppose, doesn't take place is we issue a preparatory word of command if it's something that's unexpected. What I should have done was, you know, say to the men, the company shall prepare to charge, at which point, you know, at the charge, that's when they would have moved up into this position. So I sort of give them a warning, okay guys, this is what we're going to do, and then actually tell them to do it. I was doing the same exact thing when we were going from column into line and line into column. I was saying the company shall prepare to turn to the left, turn! So I suppose, indeed, the first command is always the most difficult, as there's a great deal of stress, knowing that every single little thing that the men do out there in the field is, if you're the officer in command, up to you, and their comfort is directly reliant on the words that come out of your mouth. A lot to think about when you're out there shouting commands at people in the field. Well, until the next time, my dear viewers, I am and I shall remain your most humble and obedient of servants.